Before we begin, a quick message from our sponsors. Your support helps us keep bringing you new sleep stories for free. You won't be bothered by any ads once the story begins.
We all have routines. I'm Jabron, and with diabetes, mine was finger sticks. Sometimes, I skip them because it hurt. The Freestyle Libre 3CGM changed that. It gives me glucose insights without finger sticks. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
Finger sticks are required if your glucose alarms or readings do not match symptoms, or when you see check blood glucose symbol for the first 12 hours. The views expressed should not be used for medical diagnosis or treatment as a substitute for professional medical advice. Individual circumstances may vary. For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Now at McDonald's, get a $5 McChicken meal deal or a $6 McDouble meal deal. They come with small fries, a soft drink, and 4-piece McNuggets. We're going to need a bigger tray. Get more value with your meal deal with McValue.
Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, where the day can soften, the mind can settle, and the quiet places of the imagination can open gently around you. Tonight, you will drift toward a little cabin in the woods where rain falls softly on a roof sewn like a quilt, each drop making a tender, sleepy sound. So let yourself become comfortable now. Let your body rest where it is. Let your shoulders loosen as though they have been carrying a cloak all day, and now at last the cloak can slip away. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands become still. Let your breathing slow into its own natural rhythm, unforced and easy. Perhaps you can imagine the room around you becoming dim and peaceful. The edges of things grow softer. The air feels a little warmer. Outside, the world continues on in its distant way, but here in this moment, there is nothing that needs to be solved, nothing that needs to be held tightly. Breathe in slowly and breathe out. Again, breathe in as if drawing in the scent of clean rain and cedar wood. And breathe out as if releasing the last small worries of the day into a stream that carries them far away. Now imagine a path before you. It is narrow and safe, winding through a quiet forest at dusk. The trees lean kindly over it, their leaves glistening in the mist. Somewhere ahead, a cabin waits, small and warm, with lamplight glowing in the windows, and a roof made from soft, weatherproof patches of color stitched together like a beloved quilt. The rain has just begun. It falls lightly at first, tapping, whispering, gathering into a rhythm so gentle that it seems to breathe along with you. And as you follow that sound, the story begins to carry itself. There was, at the far edge of an old green wood, a little cabin known only to those who wandered gently and asked for very little. It stood in a clearing where the ferns grew thick and feathery, where moss softened the stones, and where silver birches lifted their pale branches like hands receiving rain. The cabin was neither grand nor lonely. It had a round door painted the color of warm honey, a crooked chimney that puffed a slow ribbon of smoke, and windows with small panes that held the evening light like amber. But the loveliest part of the cabin was its roof. The roof was made of quilted pieces, each square and diamond fitted carefully beside the next. Some patches were deep blue like midnight after snowfall, Some were green like pine needles in spring. Some were rust red, gold, cream, and lavender gray. A few were embroidered with tiny shapes: a crescent moon, a fern frond, a sleeping fox, a sprig of rosemary, a line of geese crossing the sky. No ordinary quilt could have withstood the weather, of course, but this quilt roof had been made long ago by hands patient enough to listen to the rain. Its fabric was woven from cloud wool and flax thread, from cattail silk and the soft inner bark of moonlit trees. It was stitched with fine silver cord that never tarnished, and every seam held snug against the wind. When the rain fell on it, the cabin did not rattle or creak. It hummed. Each patch gave a slightly different sound. The blue squares made a low, round murmur. The green ones gave a leafy patter. The golden ones sounded faintly like fingertips on a drum. The lavender gray patches sighed softly, as though remembering distant mountains hidden by mist. On this particular evening, a woman named Elowen had come to the clearing by the old forest path. She was not in a hurry. She carried a woven basket over one arm and wore a shawl the color of oatmeal. Her boots were damp with rainwater, but her steps were steady and light. Elowen had been tending the herb beds down by the brook. She had gathered mint, chamomile, woodruff, and a little thyme. She had cut only what the plants were willing to give and thanked them in a whisper as she worked. Now the sky had darkened into soft pearl, and the rain was beginning to fall more steadily. She paused at the edge of the clearing and listened. The quilt roof was singing. It was not a song with words. It did not rise and fall like a tune meant for a market square or a bright morning kitchen. It was quieter than that. It was the kind of music that asks nothing, the kind that simply makes space. The drops landed one by one, then many at once, each small touch joining the next until the whole roof was alive with rain. Tap, hush, patter, sigh. Tap, hush, patter, sigh. The cabin seemed to settle deeper into the earth, content beneath its patchwork covering. Elowen smiled and crossed the clearing. Near the door, the old stone step was already shining wet. She brushed a few fern tips aside with her skirt, lifted the latch, and entered. Warmth greeted her. Inside, the cabin smelled of cedar logs, dried apples, wool blankets, and the faint sweetness of beeswax candles. A fire glowed in the hearth, low and steady, its embers red as berries under ash. Copper pots hung from a beam. Bundles of herbs dried from the rafters. Along one wall stood a narrow bed piled with blankets, and beside it a small table held a lamp, a book, and a smooth white stone from the brook. Elowen set down her basket and removed her shawl. She hung it on a peg by the door, where it made a soft, tired shape. Then she knelt by the hearth and added one small, split log to the fire. The flames stirred, lifted themselves around the wood, and settled again into a quiet glow. Outside, rain continued to gather strength. It ran from the edges of the quilt roof in fine silver threads, dripping into barrels below. On the roof itself, The drops became fuller and deeper, playing over the stitched patches with a sound as comforting as a lullaby half remembered from childhood. Aloan moved slowly through the cabin, not because she was weary, but because the evening invited slowness. She rinsed the herbs in a basin of clear water and laid them on a linen cloth. She filled the kettle and placed it above the fire. She took down a cup from the shelf, a cup with a small painted moon inside the rim, visible only when it was nearly empty. A gray cat named Bramble opened one eye from the chair near the hearth. Bramble had the dignified softness of a creature who believed all warm places had been arranged for him personally. His fur was thick, his paws white, and one ear bent slightly at the tip. He watched Elowen for a moment, decided that no urgent matter required him, and closed his eye again. The kettle began to murmur. The cabin listened. The whole forest listened too. Beyond the windows, the birches shivered under the rain, and the pines held still as if they were keeping an ancient secret. Ferns bowed under droplets. Mushrooms along the roots of an oak glistened like little brown cups. In the hollow, beneath the elder bush, a hedgehog tucked its nose closer to its belly. In the high crook of a spruce, a small owl blinked at the silver weather and settled its feathers around itself. The rain brought everyone inward, even those who remained outside. Elowen poured hot water over chamomile and mint. Steam rose in a pale ribbon carrying the scent of meadow and garden. She wrapped both hands around the cup and sat in the chair opposite Bramble. For a while she did nothing but listen. The quilt roof had many voices. Near the chimney where the red and gold patches met, the rain made a warm ticking sound. Above the little bed where the blue squares lay wide and smooth, it made a softer hush, like water lapping at the side of a boat. Over the kitchen corner, the green patches gave a bright, leafy rhythm. And near the eaves, the droplets gathered and fell in a slow, patient dripping that marked the passing of the evening without measuring it. Elowen had always felt that rain on the quilt roof was different from rain anywhere else. It did not merely fall, it arrived. It came like a guest with quiet manners, removing its silver cloak at the door and sitting down beside the fire. The patches on the roof held memories. That was what her grandmother had told her when Elowen was a child, small enough to fall asleep under the table while bread was rising. Every patch remembers a gentle thing, her grandmother had said. A blue patch may remember a calm sea. A green patch may remember summer fields. A gray one may remember fog over sleeping hills. So when rain touches them, those memories wake a little and hum. Elowen had never known whether this was fact or fancy, but in the cabin such distinctions did not matter much. The world was wide enough for both. She sipped her tea. The warmth traveled through her slowly. Bramble stretched one paw, opened his toes, and let them fold back again. After a time, Elowen rose and lit the lamp on the table. Its flame glowed behind the glass, steady and golden. Shadows leaned softly into the corners, The cabin became smaller in the nicest way, held within circles of warmth, while the rain made a silver curtain over the windows. She took up a basket of mending from beside the bed. Inside were wool socks, a linen apron, and a small square of fabric she'd been embroidering for the roof. The cabin roof did not often need repair, but it liked to be added to from time to time. A new patch was a new memory, and memories, they were gentle, made excellent shelter. This patch was pale green, nearly the color of young moss after rain. Alawan had stitched the outline of a little cabin on it, with smoke curling from the chimney, and 3 small stars above. She had not finished the stars yet. She threaded her needle. The rain went on, stitch by stitch, the stars appeared. They were simple, silver, and small. Not stars that shouted from a winter sky, but stars half seen through drifting cloud. Stars meant for anyone who happened to look up at the right quiet moment. As Alawan worked, the fire breathed in the hearth. The kettle cooled. The cat dreamed. And outside, the forest seemed to loosen under the rain, releasing the fragrance of bark, soil, leaf mold, and stone. The path to the cabin darkened, then disappeared into the wet green dusk, the clearing filled with the soft shine of puddles. Every now and then a drop slipped from a high branch and landed heavily on a leaf below, making a deeper note beneath the roof's gentle music. In the distance, the brook grew fuller. It moved over stones with a contented rush, carrying fallen leaves, pine needles, and tiny bubbles downstream. Its banks, lined with moss and violet roots, drank deeply. The night came without hurry. It laid itself over the forest in layers. First came the dimming of the leaves, then the deepening of the spaces between trunks, then the soft disappearance of the farthest trees. The windows of the cabin became warmer by contrast, squares of honey light glowing in the rain. Alawan finished the final star and held the patch up to the lamp. It pleased her, not because it was perfect. It was not. One star leaned slightly to the left, and the chimney smoke had taken on a curl she had not planned. But it had the feeling of a restful place, and that was what mattered. She placed the patch on the table and smoothed it with her palm. Bramble rose then, as if the smoothing of fabric had summoned him. He stepped down from the chair, stretched long from front paws to tail, and padded across the floor. Without asking, he climbed onto the table and sat beside the patch. Alawan looked at him. Bramble looked at the patch. A soft silence passed between them. Then Bramble lowered one white paw onto the corner of the fabric, approving it in the ancient manner of cats. Alawan laughed quietly. The sound was almost swallowed by the rain, but not quite. It warmed the room for a moment, then faded into the hush. She lifted Bramble gently and placed him on her lap before he could claim the entire table. He accepted this change with great patience and arranged himself into a heavy purring circle. The rain deepened. Now it fell in long, even sheets, not storming, not harsh, simply steady. The quilt roof received it all. No drop was hurried away. Each one landed, sounded, joined the others, and slipped down along the seams toward the eaves. The roof's song became rounder, fuller, more enveloping. It filled the cabin without crowding it. It covered the little noises of the world, the creak of wood, the settling of embers, the breath of the sleeping cat, and wove them into one whole cloth of sound. Elowen leaned back. Her eyes rested on the rafters where the drying herbs swayed very slightly in the warm air. Shadows of mint leaves moved over the ceiling. The scent of chamomile lingered near her cup. She thought of the roof above her, all its pieces joined together. No patch was large enough to shelter the cabin on its own. Some were plain, some were beautiful, some had faded, some had been added after difficult winters, or bright springs, or quiet mornings when nothing much had happened except the making of tea and the opening of a window. Together they made shelter. Together they turned rain into music. This thought pleased her, though she did not hold it tightly. It came and went like a small lantern floating downstream. After a while, Elowen stood, and Bramble slid reluctantly from her lap to the chair. She took a wool blanket from the bed and wrapped it around her shoulders. Then she opened the cabin door just a little. Cool, rain-scented air entered, fresh and dark. The clearing shimmered. The lantern beside the door cast a soft circle on the wet step. Beyond it, the ferns moved gently under the rainfall. The barrels beneath the eaves were nearly full, their surfaces trembling with rings. The quilt roof curved overhead, its colors muted in the night, each patch darkened and shining. Elowen stepped onto the covered threshold, careful to remain beneath the eave. The rain fell just beyond her, close enough that she could feel its cool breath on her face. She listened to the roof from outside. Here the song was different. Inside it had been a lullaby. Outside it was more like a conversation between sky and shelter. The rain spoke in silver syllables, and the quilt answered in soft cloth tones. The trees added their leaf whispers. The earth answered with the quiet drinking of roots. Near the edge of the clearing, something moved. A deer emerged from between the birches, slender and calm. Her coat darkened by rain. She lowered her head to drink from a puddle gathered in a hollow stone. For a moment, she and Elowen shared the evening without surprise. The deer lifted her head, ears wide, rain slipping from her lashes. Then she turned and stepped back into the trees, leaving only a slight movement of wet leaves behind her. Elowen remained on the threshold a little longer. The world felt held. Not still exactly, for everything was moving. Rain falling, water running, leaves bending, smoke rising. But all of it moved in harmony, as though the night had found a slow breath and every living thing had joined it. At last, Elowen closed the door. She slid the latch gently into place. Inside, the cabin seemed even warmer than before. The fire had settled low again, painting the hearthstones with a soft red glow. Bramble had returned to the chair and was washing one paw with drowsy seriousness. Elowen took the little green patch and folded it carefully. Tomorrow, if the weather cleared, she would climb the short ladder and sew it onto the roof near the eastern side, where morning light first touched the cabin. The patch would learn sunshine, rain, birdsong, and frost. It would learn the quiet of sleeping rooms. It would become part of the shelter. But not tonight. Tonight was for resting. She set the patch beside the lamp and prepared the cabin for sleep. She covered the remaining embers so they would keep their warmth until morning. She rinsed her cup and placed it upside down on the shelf. She checked the window latches, though the quilt roof and the old walls had never let in more than a friendly draft. She laid another blanket at the foot of the bed. The rain continued to fall, gentle, steady, near. Elowen changed into a soft nightgown and braided her hair loosely over one shoulder. She slipped into bed, drawing the blankets up around her. The sheets were cool for only a moment before they began to warm. The pillow held the faint scent of lavender. Bramble waited until she was settled, then leapt up with a soft thump and walked in a slow circle at the foot of the bed. He pressed his paws into the blanket, finding the exact place that pleased him, and curled into a round, gray moon. The lamp still burned. Elowen watched the flame for a while. It bent slightly when the cabin breathed, and then stood tall again. Beyond the window, rain blurred the glass. The world outside had become shapes and glimmers, the pale trunk of a birch, the dark sweep of pine, the occasional bright thread of water sliding down the pane. Above, the quilt roof sang. Its many patches had become one sound now, deep and tender. It was the sound of being covered, the sound of having arrived, the sound of rain falling without needing to be anywhere else. Elowen's thoughts grew slower. They drifted first to the herb beds by the brook, then to the green patch on the table, then to the deer at the edge of the clearing. Each thought appeared softly and faded softly, like a reflection in water disturbed by rain. She imagined the roof above her, layer upon layer of patient stitches. She imagined each raindrop landing on the fabric and releasing a tiny memory of comfort, a field under mist, a warm kitchen, a hand smoothing a blanket, a lantern in a window, a path leading home. The cabin held them all. And slowly, as the night deepened, Elowen's breathing matched the rain. In, out. A soft rise, a soft fall. The fire gave one small sigh in the hearth. Bramble purred in his sleep. The lamp flame lowered as if it too were becoming tired. Outside, the brook carried its silver water through the dark. It passed under roots and over stones, through fern shadows and around small islands of moss. It carried the rain away from the clearing, down toward the valley where reeds grew and willows leaned, and the moon, hidden behind clouds, made a pale glow somewhere above the world. In the cabin, sleep came gently. It did not arrive all at once. It gathered first in the corners of the room, soft and blue. It rested on the shelves, among the jars of dried berries and folded cloth. It settled over the chair, the table, the basket of mending. It slipped beneath the bed and rose around the blankets. It touched Bramble's whiskers. It touched Elowen's closed eyes. The rain kept singing, and the quilt roof kept answering. Through the long, peaceful hours, the cabin dreamed. Perhaps it dreamed of every patch it had ever worn, the red one from the autumn when apples had been plentiful, the blue one from a winter of clear, cold stars, the yellow one sown during a summer of bees, the gray one added after a week of fog when the whole world had seemed made of breath and pearl. It dreamed of footsteps crossing the clearing, of kettle steam, of books read by lamplight, of bread cooling on the sill, of quiet laughter, of mornings when sunlight lay across the floorboards in golden squares. It dreamed of rain, always rain. Not rain as sadness, but rain as blessing. Rain as a soft hand on the roof. Rain as a reminder that the sky sometimes comes down to touch the earth, and the earth opens to receive it. Near morning, the rain grew lighter. The roof's song thinned to a delicate tapping. The barrels were full, the ferns were bowed and shining. The trees stood washed and dark, each branch holding small beads of water. The clouds loosened, and behind them the first pale hint of dawn began to form. But inside the cabin, sleep remained deep and gentle. Elowen did not wake. Bramble did not stir. The lamp had gone out on its own, leaving only the faint glow of embers and the gray-blue softness before sunrise. The green patch waited on the table with its tiny silver stars, ready for another day, another memory, another place, in the sheltering quilt, and all was well. Now the story grows quieter. The rain softens. The cabin rests. The forest breathes in the cool, clean dark before morning. There is nothing more to do, nothing more to hold. Only the gentle sound above, the hush of water on fabric, the warm shelter of blankets, the steady comfort of being safe and still. Let the roof sing softly in the distance. Let the rain smooth every thought. Let the little cabin fade into mist and moss and sleep. Good night, dear traveler. May your dreams be warm. May your heart be light. Sleep well.